One of the most successful lies of the enemy has been to convince us that our vulnerability is a bad thing. I'm someone who feels things so deeply. And for the longest time in my life, I was highly emotional internally, but not very emotionally expressive. And it was because, in truth, I felt that the more you just gave, the more you put yourself out there in that way, you were opening yourself up to so much danger that it was much better, much safer to just, feel all the feels, but like, stone face, maintain composure. But the closer I get to Christ, the more I mature as well and see the world in a way that suits me versus a way that people, society, media has told you to be, the more I realize that that is so wrong. We are made the ways that we are for a reason. God doesn't make any mistakes. If you're someone who's highly sensitive, who feels so deeply, there is a reason. There is a call on your life that requires that level of softness, that level of gentleness, that attentiveness, that if you didn't have those traits, you wouldn't be able to fully manifest it. But what does the devil like to do? He likes to pervert the good things of God, right? So you have this softness, you're attentive, you are just a sensitive human being. And now people are coming into your life who are seeing the sensitivity and they are taking advantage of it. And with God's good gifts that He gives us, He also equips us with things to help us handle those good gifts. And one of those things that He gives us is wisdom. Wisdom allows us to be able to understand the goodness that we have, but also see how, when, and where to give that goodness. And also what we should desire in return. There is no relationship in your life where there is not an expectation of an exchange, unless you like have a child. But if you have really good friends, if you have family members, if you're in a romantic relationship, there is an expectation of an exchange. And if you do not have the wisdom to demand or have this expectation of exchange, that's usually when we end up in situations where our goodness is taken for granted, taken advantage of. I was going to say for granted and advantage, but all the same, that is where our goodness is abused. And that's when you hear people saying things like, oh, nice guys finish last. You can't be good. People don't treat people good. People take advantage of you. No, nice guys with no boundaries, with no expectations will finish last, because being nice without having sense makes you a nice senseless person, and you're going to get taken advantage of. And I'm someone who was like that. There was a time in my life where my joy was seeing people happy. So I would go above and beyond and then a couple inches higher. And my whole thing was, oh, if you're happy, I'm happy. And it's great when you encounter like spirited people who are like, I love the fact that you make me happy. And even if you ask for nothing, because I love you, I want to do something back. But the opposite also happens a lot, where someone is like, oh, she says her happiness is making me happy. Nice. So I'm just going to let her do everything for me. And yeah, there are things that I could do for her as well, but she didn't ask, so I'm not going to give. And in those situations is where you end up with those tropes of like, don't be a good girl. Good girls suffer. Like nice guys finish last, and all of those types of things. So with your goodness comes wisdom, and with that wisdom comes expectations of what you should demand in exchange. If I'm being good to a stranger, if I'm holding the door for somebody, or I feel called to do something for someone who I'm not actually in any type of relationship with, the expectation will obviously be different. But if you are my friend, if you are my lover, if you are my family member, I need something in exchange, because that is how we stay in the place of our goodness not becoming resentment. Because as I am giving from the abundance of what I have to make you feel good, it's an honor to do so. And you are also doing the same for me in your own way. And when you tap into this understanding, it makes it so much easier to not become jaded by the things of life. When I went through a big breakup, I remember people who knew me and the person I was dating coming along and be like, oh yeah, and all the things you used to do for him, going above and beyond, you shouldn't do that for the next guy you meet. And I'm like, ooh, you guys don't even know how like the enemy is trying to use you, because that is the goal, that our goodness will be put in a place where it's not supposed to be, and it will be corrupted by one person, and that will cause us to close up and not be able to trust or live in the abundance of the light that God has given us. And I remember distinctly sitting down one day, and it's probably somewhere in one of my journals from that year, 2019, and saying to myself that I love who I am. I love how I am. I love the fact that I love so much. And the next person I date and marry, I can't wait to love them the way I loved and gave to this person, because they are going to be worth it. So my love is my love. It's how I give. If I like you, if I care about you, like I'm locked in, I'm just a lover. But now I just quantify who gets access to those levels of me, because once you're in the inner circle, like permanent residence, citizenship, you become the mayor, like I can't kick you out. So because I know that, I am now guarding this gift of my goodness, of my softness, of my heart, and treating it as a gift. So in order for me to give you access to the deepest parts of this gift, I have to determine that you're worth it. And in the meantime, I'm going to still be lovely and nice and caring to you, but there are levels of closeness, access, and proximity that you just shouldn't give to people, because you're a good person with wisdom. You're not just a nice person who's floating in the air. You're not a cloud puffing around, blowing where the wind blows. You know, you're a good person with goodness, and you understand where this gift comes from. And not only that, you steward that gift well, because if your goodness, your softness, your sensitivity, your attentiveness is a gift from God, there are responsibilities that you have to take in accepting that gift. And in stewarding those responsibilities well and stewarding that gift, then you understand why it's important to be sensitive and to be wise to who you give access to. And when you understand those sensitivities, it makes it so much easier to love with the fullness and the abundance of who you are, because you're meant to. And when you meet someone who doesn't understand the value, you can quickly clock it and you get them out of your way, instead of you now hurting yourself and becoming something you're not, because the world is trying to corrupt the goodness and the gift of God inside of you. So I say all of that to say that be soft, be squishy. Thank God that you still have that in you. And thank God that the people who have tried to convince you that it's not worth it haven't succeeded. You deserve to laugh. You deserve to fly. You deserve to be floaty, happy, excited. And you should never let somebody without wings tell you that it's not worth it to fly. Because what do you know? You're ground bound. Like, you don't know what it's like up here. You don't know how great it is. And it's an honor and a gift from God. And in living in the fullness of who you are and not hiding, it shows a level of faith and trust in God that you made me like this. I believe you don't make mistakes, so I'm not a mistake. And in the times where the devil tries to convince you, where the world tries to convince you to harden up, remember that this doesn't even belong to them. They didn't make it. And it sucks. Like, pray for the people who can't be vulnerable, who feel like they're not allowed to, exist in the fullness of who they are, because it's so good. It's so good to be able to just be and not have to overthink and not have to calculate to exist. And I truly pray that for all of you. And if you've been feeling like you need to shut down because people are taking advantage of you, no, wisen up. Wisen up, my dear, and continue to be who you're supposed to be, in faith and trust that those who are meant to be around are going to find you. You are going to find your tribe of caring, loving, warm people, and you're gonna be so grateful that you didn't lock up over some people who weren't even worth it in the first place. So I hope that this helps you, and I hope that you remember why it's worth staying soft. And if you like this video, if you think that a friend of yours would benefit from this message, please share it with them. And if you love this video, subscribe. And remember to continue to be kind to yourself, because you're a work in progress and you're making progress. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.